Good day. Welcome to our new lesson for today. And this is Christine Marie P. Daniel. And before we proceed, let's play a game first. This is Guess the Image. So, what you will do is you need to look closely at the picture and choose the answer you think is correct. So, your task is to guess what the child in the photo is doing. And let's see how well we can interpret just by looking at the part of the picture. Okay, so this is the first image. What do you think is this child doing? Is it A, drawing with crayons, B, eating candy, C, building with Lego, or D, playing with a toy car? So here's our first image. What do you think this child is doing? Look carefully and pick your best guess. All right, let's see. The correct answer is building with Lego. That's letter C. Okay, so some of you might have guessed the wrong answer, but it's okay. We'll talk more about that later. For now, let's have the image number two. What do you think these children are doing? Are they dancing, running in the playground, playing tag with friends, or jumping rope? So this one is a bit tricky because it's blurred, but what's your best guess? Okay, let's reveal the answer. They are running in the playground. Okay, what about the last one? What do you think is making this child smile? A, eating ice cream, B, playing in the sandbox, C, watching cartoons, or D, listening to the music? Let's reveal the correct answer is the child is happily playing in the sandbox. Okay, so you see, the smile alone didn't tell us the full story. So, this is exactly how our topic is talking all about. Like from the three photos, thank you by the way for your cooperation. From the three photos we just explored, we saw how easy it is to make quick assumptions. And with that, we can't always know the child's full experience from just one detail. From the first image, we thought the child was holding candy, but it was Lego. Since it was cropped, we cannot see the full image. It looked different or something at first, but when we see the bigger picture, it's actually Lego. Okay? The second image, as we saw earlier, we thought they were running. We thought they were dancing, but they were running. Okay? So, in that sense, at first it wasn't clear. Some of us may have guessed wrong, but now that we see it fully, we understand the children better, or the child better. And lastly, in the third image, we thought the child's smile was from the ice cream, but it was really from playing in the sandbox. So the smile alone didn't tell us the full story. So this is exactly how phenomenology works. And those moments reminds us of an important lesson that when we only see part of a child's experience, we don't fully understand the reality. So, as educators and researchers, phenomenology teaches us to look beyond the surface, to see the whole picture of a child's um, lived experience, especially through play. So, just like those images, children play children's play may look simple or ordinary on the outside, but if we pause, observe, and truly listen, we discover the deeper meaning behind their actions, emotions, imagination, and that's the heart of phenomenology in early childhood research, wherein we try to understand children's lived experiences through play. Okay, so with that, here's our topic for today. And with that being said, let's talk about what is phenomenology. So it is a qualitative research approach that explores lived experiences to understand meaning as people experienced it. So it's like a philosophical approach, or I mean a research methodology that focuses on the study of lived human experience, aiming to understand the essence of an experience from the perspective of those who have lived it. In simple terms, phenomenology is the study of people's lived experiences, how they see, feel, and understand things that happen to them in everyday life. So instead of looking at facts, numbers, or outside observations, phenomenology tries to understand the meaning of an experience from the point of view of the person living it. Okay? So, in early childhood research, phenomenology helps teachers. It helps us see the world through children's eyes, especially through play, which is their natural way of expressing experiences. So, phenomenology in early childhood is like a way of studying and understanding children's lived experiences about what life feels like for them, and yeah, what life feels like for them in their own perspective. Okay? Since children may not always explain their feelings or thoughts in words, researchers and teachers use play as a medium into their experiences. Okay? Now, let's check this image and let's try to make a guess on what you think is the child is feeling or thinking while playing. Okay, so as we observe on the image, we are seeing a child playing alone in a corner with blocks. So, what do you think? So some of you may assume that the child is shy or doesn't like friends. But if we will apply phenomenology in this, the child may actually be enjoying solitary play as a way of exploring ideas, practicing concentration, or expressing creativity. So you see, your first assumption may be wrong or right, but we really cannot tell since we are not on the shoe of the child. But we can somehow get a grasp of what it's like for them if we will apply phenomenology to have an insight phenomenologically of what they are thinking or feeling. Another example, what would be your idea on why the child made this kind of output? You might think that this is something messy and meaningless. Maybe the child is feeling bored, or they are just nothing at all. It doesn't give any meaning for them. That's your assumption or whatever you might be thinking right now. But if we will apply phenomenological insight on this, if we will apply phenomenology on this, the child may be expressing emotions, telling a story, or beginning to understand symbols and communication. Or maybe they are trying to practice or learning how to hold the pencil and they do some scribbles just to practice it or whatever it is for them. Okay? You see the difference between assumption and phenomenological insight. And that is why phenomenology is very important. It helps us avoid quick judgments and truly understand children's experiences. Okay? And with that being said, I'd like also to ask, what do you think is the borderline between assumption and phenomenological insight? What's the borderline between assumption and phenomenological insight? Okay, so when we say assumption, it is when we create our quick judgment based only on what we see from the outside. Like we based on our own perspective, not the child. And in that sense, we might misunderstand or label the child incorrectly. But when we say phenomenological insight, this is a careful understanding of the meaning of the child's experience from their point of view, not on your own. So it goes beyond the surface action to the why behind it because we are trying to we seek to uncover what the experience feels like for the child. Okay, so the borderline lies in whether we stop at our own interpretation or open ourselves to child's lived meaning. Okay, the borderline is when we impose our view, our own perspective, our assumption, or when we seek the child's meaning, our phenomenological insight. Okay, so how to gain phenomenological insight, man, ma'am? First, we need to do bracketing or we need to suspend our assumption. That's the very first step. And then, second, we need to observe carefully and then engage with the child and reflect on the content. Okay, so we will talk more about that on the next slides. But for now, let's talk about on why we use phenomenology in early childhood. So, first, it gives voice to um, children's experiences because children cannot always explain what they feel in words. So, through phenomenology, teachers can understand their experiences by observing how they play, draw, or tell stories. So, phenomenology is very important in play because we will try to put ourselves on the shoe of these students. And in that sense, we can understand how it feels like to them, how they're thinking on the situation, so on and so forth. Okay? So a child, like for example, a child who often plays family may be showing how they see relationships at home, and maybe they feel cared for, or maybe they are expressing worries, or whatever it is. So it gives voice to children's experiences without putting it into words. Okay. Second, it helps educators understand children's perspective. So, phenomenology encourages teachers to see the world through children's eyes instead of only assuming what children think. Example, a child who refuses to join a group game may not be shy, but may feel excluded. So, by looking at it from their perspective, the teacher can better support that child. So, therefore, phenomenology truly helps educators understand the children's perspective. Third, moves beyond scores to deeper meaning making. So, learning is not just about numbers, grades, or scores. And with that, phenomenology reminds us to look at the meaning behind children's actions and feeling. Like another example, a child may get a low score in counting, but during block play, the same child shows strong problem solving skills and creativity. So that deeper meaning is revealed through phenomenology. Like we do not limit a child on what they can do and how they can express themselves. And we can only understand them if we will apply phenomenology. If we will not do it in phenomenological way, we may plainly observe on what the child is doing. Maybe we misinterpret or misunderstood things from our own perspective. Okay, so that's is why it's very important. And in that sense, educators will learn through I mean, what educators learn through a phenomenological approach is that they will learn how to listen and observe carefully. Like they will look beyond the surface actions of these children. And in that sense, teachers learn to slow down and pay attention not only to what children are doing, but also to why they are doing it. So instead of just labeling behaviors, educators look deeper ba on the child. Like, for example, a child is playing with sand. So the child might be exploring textures, expressing calmness, or remembering time at the beach. We are really using words, no, if naka-observe mo, we are using words maybe or might be because we will not assume right away. Kay dili man kita anaasa kanang kanang life or sa shoe ana nga bata. That is just our like a guess that we are trying to atong gitry og tag ano na maybe sakto ni ana but wala tin conclude right away. Okay, or like a child maybe is or like you observe a child who keeps drawing rain may not just like weather, but it could reflect their emotion like sadness, comfort, or fascination with nature. So we will not limit ourselves by one possible answer to what we observe. That's how phenomenology works. And in that sense, mahatagan na to og value we will learn how to respect their unique perspective because every child has a story and a way of seeing the world. And in that sense, phenomenology teaches us educators to respect these differences rather than impose adult interpretations. So this means giving children opportunities to express themselves through play, talk, or art, or movement, and treating these expressions as meaningful. Okay? And then again, if that is the case, we respect them, we listen and observe carefully, we value their voices, then therefore that's the time that we can understand meaning and play for them. We see play as more than fun. Teachers will learn that play is not just entertainment, but a child's way of making sense of life. And through play, children show their emotions, social understanding, creativity, and even their struggles. Okay, so that is why phenomenology is really important in early childhood. Okay, but my question here, in what way do you think play helps the teacher through phenomenology? I think the mention na nako ang mga tubag ani no. So, how play helps the teacher through phenomenology? I think it's for me, first, it reveals children's perspective. So, when teachers observe children's play with a phenomenological lens, we will see how children understand roles, relationship, and the world. Nga dili na to siya masabtan if kuha lang ta, plainly observing and watching the children doing play. So, di na to ma-reveal di na to sabtan ang perspective sa children if we do not apply phenomenology. Second, it guides the teaching. It guides the teaching or the curriculum itself because when teachers learn what interests children and can if we will know mao ni ang gusto sa bata, mao ni ang way of learning, mao ni ang di ganahan, mao ni ang yung needs, then the teacher can design activities around those experiences. So it's really helpful for us. Third is I think is it is when phenomenology supports assessment because play shows developmental progress sa bata, yung social skills, creativity, and problem solving. In such a way, teacher can assess the children or the child in those developmental areas. Okay? Wherein, dili na to ma-check through standardized tests or mga traditional methods of assessment. Make sense? And the last one is it will build empathy and connection between sa teacher and sa child because through play, understanding play helps teachers connect with children on a deeper or more human level. Kay dili man ka mo assume nga ing ani ning bataa. Instead, you will try man to understand anang mga student. So if you tried if mo siyang gitry nga sabot kaniya, then therefore you are trying to connect with the child. Dili man ka makasabot if you do not have this connection anang student. So eventually, your empathy and connection can be built throughout the process. Okay? And vice versa. And what do you think teachers help play through phenomenology? So earlier, I asked, in what way do you think si play ni tabang ni teacher? So mga totong answer. But this time, in what way do you think teachers help play through phenomenology? So si teacher na ni help ni play. What do you think? So with all the inputs and insight na imo na-gather through phenomenology, special ang imo yung unang makuan jud ani as a teacher is maka-provide ka og safe and stimulating environment pa. Like mas ma-improve pa nimo ang imuhang like I mean, the teachers can create spaces where children feel free to express themselves. Like, nakakita ka nga, ang student is ganahan siya og role-play nga game. Not, game. Mas ganahan, na-observe ni mo yung mga learners are mas ganahan sila nga mag-role-play. So, what you will do is, you will provide them more props or mga toys na pwede nilang gamiton if mag-roleplay sila. Make sense? And second, you could encourage inclusion and diversity. Teachers will help play by encouraging inclusion and diversity because teachers can include cultural games and respect different play preferences. Like na-observe nimo through phenomenology nga mao din ang culture ni nga student, mao din ni iyahang kanang religion or whatever. And with that, imo pang ma-improve si play sa imuhang klase because you were able to accommodate those differences na nga imong nakuha through phenomenology. Did you get the point? So at first, imuhang play or imong activity nga gikandak is plain as it is. But since naana kay nakuha nga inputs or insights from doing phenomenology, or from doing phenomenological research, imo na siyang i-consider to improve your activities and next time. Okay? So that is how teachers help play through phenomenology. Okay? Play helps teachers see and understand children's lived experiences, while teachers help play by providing the environment, respect, and support children need to express those experiences. Okay? I hope it's clear. So this time, let's move on to the next slide. You are seeing now the diagram of phenomenology on play and how it supports the child's development. We have here cognitive development. It's about the thinking and problem solving. So when teachers use phenomenology to observe play, the play, they pay close attention to how children think, explore, and make sense of problems in their own way. Play becomes a window into children's logical reasoning, curiosity, and persistence. And then, in that sense, like for example, when a child builds a bridge using blocks, the teacher sees more than just stacking. But instead, we will notice that the child is testing weight, balance, and cause and effect. The teacher can then, like, ma-extend pa na to ba? We can extend learning sa gibuhat sa bata by prompting like, what if we try a wider block at the bottom? Or do you think it will hold better? Like nakig-interact ka sa student, nakig-connect ka niya. So in this approach, it strengthens the problem solving and critical thinking skill sa student because ni ko man ka mura kag ni at ingon ni sabay but ni follow up ka ba kay mao man imuha na observe sa bata. Okay? So without phenomenology, the teacher may see this as a simple playtime lang. Like, kuan lang, like, duwa-duwa lang sa bata. Like, wala siya lingaw. Okay? And you will miss the deeper reason, ana, sa gibuhat sa child. So as a result, children's problem solving abilities could go unnoticed and unsupported, leading to a fewer opportunities to practice persistence and logical thinking. Okay, second, we have language development. Phenomenology allows teachers to hear how children use language during play, because not only in words, but in the meaning and intent behind them. Okay, so like through careful observation, us teachers will notice how children negotiate, narrate, and practice new vocabulary in real life context. Like for instance, dahil duha ka children na play o kanang tinda-tindahan. They might say, "How much is this?" or "I'll pay you 2 coins." So a teacher who applies phenomenology, if nag-apply ka na, you will pick up on the real communication practice happening and expand it by saying, "Yes, you gave 2 coins." So that's like paying 2 pesos. Like ni support ka. This builds like this creates a chance for you ba? This creates an opportunity for you as a teacher to support more sa development sa bata in terms of language. Kay naaman, nadungog man nimo siya nga mao na iyang mga kuan. Or let's say, imo ba ron siyang i-correct if ever na say no wrong pronunciation or construction of words. Not necessarily ang pag-correct atong goal, but that's the opportunity na lang nimo if ever na man gana nga instance. And that's something that you need to consider as well or take note nimo as a teacher. This is really important nimo. This builds as well. This is also important as a student because this builds vocabulary, sentence structure, and social use of language. And without phenomenology, the teacher may dismiss these dialogues as just pretend or like kuan lang, wala ra, and fail to reinforce communication skills. So over time, this could limit children's opportunities to develop expressive language and interactive conversation skills. Labi na no if kanang for example, ang mga bata na sila nagamit ng word nga sounds bastos sa atua. I mean, bastos jud siya like mga pamalikas. Kay mao man ilahang kanang nadungog gikan sa ilahang panimalay. So if imo na siyang i-disregard, then therefore, ma-miss nimo ang chance nga ma-correct ng bataa o ma-miss nimo ang chance nga kanang not just ma-correct, may kanang imo siyang kuan ba, kanang sultian sa sakto or kanang tuduolan siya sa unsa nga proper nga words, unsa jud ang pasabot ana nga words sa iyang gipangsulti and to stop whatever they are doing wrong ana and teach them correctly and reinforce them sa ilahang language development. Okay, next is social emotional development. Sa phenomenology helps teachers understand play as a safe space where children explore emotions, relationships, and social roles. So, by observing from the child's perspective, teachers see that a child pretending to be a doctor may not simply be acting, but may be working through feelings of fear about real doctor visits. Or nag-show ba rin siya og care for others. So, ikaw as teacher, you can acknowledge and affirm emotions with comments like, "You're taking care of the baby so gently." That shows kindness. Okay? So, this recognition builds emotional literacy, empathy, and positive self-concept sa child. So, if walay phenomenology ato, ikaw teacher, might imo siyang ma-overlook ayang emotional processing nga nahitabo during play. And with that, you will fail to support the child in naming or managing their feelings. So, mamiss na po ni mga opportunity to build resilience, empathy, and healthy social skills. Mamiss na nimo and mamiss po na sa bata nga chance. Talking about creativity and symbolic thinking, a phenomenological perspective lets teachers recognize that when children transform objects in play, they are demonstrating imagination and symbolic thinking, which is really critical for their future abstract reasoning. Okay, like for example, when a stick becomes a magic wand or cardboard, it turns into a spaceship baron or whatever pa na ilang gi-imagine. So ikaw, as teacher, you will see it beyond the surface because you will value their creativity. It's like, kuan ba, ma-amaze ka ba nga ang bata is naka-imagine sa ing ani, bisag ing ana na siya on the surface. Ang kanang ihang toy or object ihang gi-imagine. So, yeah, it is really important to apply phenomenology because by valuing this creativity, you will provide more open-ended materials baron or celebrates children's unique ideas. Like in the next time baron, mo ka nga, di ba, ang kaning nga stick lang para nimo. But sa perspective sa bata, that is the superhero nga mulupad sa iyahang duha the last time. So you will provide more value anang butanga kay para nimo naanay meaning ngadto sa bata. Does it make sense? So in that idea, this nurtures flexible thinking and problem solving in imaginative ways sa bata. And if wala pa to siya acknowledge sa teacher, the symbolic play may be dismissed as kanang nonsense lang or meaningless para nimo. And if kana pa siya is mahitabo repeatedly, then the child's creativity may be stifled or kanang their ability to think symbolically kay dili na siya ing ana ka bright. Or like mukha sa tuwa pa nga pinulungan is mapawong ka ba nga dili na kaganahan pa mabuhat pa ana or wala kay gana ana kay in the first instance kay gikuan naman ka sa mohang gi-stop naman ka. You get the point? Which is really foundational for the reading, writing, and abstract concept. Dili na sila ma-develop kay gi-stop naman o wala naman siya nasuportaan in the first instance. Okay? Next is physical development. Phenomenology allows teachers to see how play activities strengthen the body as well as the mind. So, through careful observation, um, teachers recognize that climbing, running, balancing, or manipulating objects during play are not just bursts of energy, but important exercises in developing gross and fine motor skills. So, for example, a child balancing on a beam in an obstacle course is maybe they are building coordination, focus, and body control. So, ikaw as teacher who sees this meaning, you can design safer, more challenging na mga physical spaces to match children's developmental needs. If wala pa, your active play may be seen only as children running around or nagyagaw lang or nagkiat lang. And ilahang developmental value is imuhang overlook. So this could lead to fewer opportunities for children to build strength, coordination, and confidence in a movement. Last one, we have identity, culture, and inclusion. So, using phenomenology, teachers become sensitive to how children bring their family, culture, and personal identity into play. So, for example, a child setting up pretend fiesta may be expressing kanang cultural pride and reflecting experiences nga gikan silahang panimalay. So not all the time ano nga ang bata is ilaha jud i-express unsa ilahang kuan sa balay, but maobserve na nimo if there are opportunities wherein they can express those. Okay, so when teachers notice this and validate it, perhaps mo kuan baron ka mo invite baron ka sa iyahang family to share their cultural or to bring their ideas from home, like traditional games or cultural stories. So, all of these are different, but phenomenology teaches us that they are equally valid and meaningful. And it reminds us teachers that no single style of play is better than another. So instead, every type of play reflects a child's lived experience. And in this perspective, promote nato ang inclusivity because it ensures that every child's voice and every child's way of expressing themselves through play is acknowledged. So your identity was acknowledged, your culture was acknowledged, at the same time, there is inclusivity. So a child with a disability cannot a place in a different way is not excluded, or a child with a different background or culture or religion placed in a different way is not excluded because the teacher values their play experience just as much as the others. Okay? Even kanang mga student or mga kanang bata nga mag-prefer sila og solitary play. Mas makakuan ba? Mas ma mean, o solitary play, they will I mean, di mo siya mapugos. They are not forced into group work, but it is suspected for the way they choose to interact at the moment. Okay? Or other than that, you could also um, let the children feel seen, valued, and included, not just by inviting their families or to share their cultural songs or mga things, but pwede man sad siguro sa mga by implementing or have some activities na relevant sa ilang culture, relevant sa ilang religion, relevant sa ilang background. So with that, you will help them, mas strengthen ang ilang identity, belonging, and respect for diversity. Without phenomenology, such expressions may go unnoticed or even misunderstood as irrelevant. Like, di mo ma-acknowledge ang uban nga kuan differences sa students. So in that sense, it will make children feel invisible or that their culture is not important, which can weaken their self-esteem, and then ma-discourage na sila to share about their authentic experiences in the class. Okay? But the question as well here I want to ask on how can we promote inclusivity through play. So if phenomenology in early childhood research is all about understanding children's life experiences, then how can we promote inclusivity through play? What do you think is the answer? I do agree with what's on your mind right now, but to share my perspective, when applied to play, when we apply phenomenology in play, um, it means that teachers do not just see play as a random activity or a way to pass time. So instead, we will see it as a child's natural language, a window into how the child feels, what the child values, and how the child makes sense of the world. So now, if we will talk about inclusivity, it's very important. And by observing play phenomenologically, teachers are able to notice these unique ways each child participates. Like for example, I think na-mention na ako ganiha, for example, one child may be very active in role playing games, so another may prefer building quietly with blocks, and another may bring ideas gikan sa lahang pamalamalay, like ilang traditional games or ilang cultural stories. So all of these are different, but phenomenology teaches us that they are equally valid and meaningful. So it will remind us ba that no single style of play is better than another, that every type of play is nag-reflect sa ilahang lived experiences. So this perspective will help us promote inclusivity because kanang ma-acknowledge na to ba ang ilahang individual kanang differences. It will ensure that every child's voice and way of expressing themselves through play is ma-acknowledge na to. Okay? So, us teachers can promote inclusivity through phenomenology in several ways, like we observe and listen carefully. We take time to notice which children are joining the play, who might be stepping back, what roles children are choosing. Then we will ask questions like, can you tell me more about your game, or what are you building? So, which allows children to explain their ideas in their own words. Or second, we can make sure we need to make sure we can promote inclusivity through respect. respecting differences. We will avoid labeling toys or roles as for boys or for girls. We will not assume that a quiet child is less social or that a child who plays differently is behind. Instead, we will set aside these assumptions and focus on the meaning the child gives to play. And third, teachers can promote inclusivity by providing diverse and accessible materials. So if na dolls of different kanang like provide ba rin ka og dolls of different skin tones if available man gani, or costumes from different professions, or magamit ka og toys for children with disabilities and books that represent different family structures. Inga na ba? So by doing this, every child can see themselves reflected in the classroom environment. Fourth is, I think na diri sa akong slide. Fourth is to respect individual choices. Or like we will encourage shared play while respecting individual choices. So the children might invite, I mean, might they might invite children to play together, guide them to share roles, and support them in cooperating. But I also understand that we will need also to understand that some children need time to independent play. So they create spaces where children can play alone when they prefer. Okay? And then last one is reflect as a teacher. Teachers should use reflection and adjustment. They take notes, we take notes on the observations and ask ourselves who was included in play today, who seemed left out. Are there children who rarely use the materials provided? Then that's the time that we can adjust our setup. Maybe by adding quieter spaces, more culturally relevant toys, or materials that allows everyone to join. Okay, so in this process, phenomenology helps teachers promote inclusivity through play. If it shifts, it shifts the teacher's role from simply managing playtime to truly listening, observing, and honoring what children are communicating, what they are expressing. Okay, the classroom becomes a space for them where differences are not just tolerated but celebrated as part of learning. So when children see that their ways of playing are respected, then they feel a stronger sense of belonging. And that is the heart of inclusivity, making sure every child feels valued and respected and included. And you will not be able to do such unless you have the insight, you have the inputs, you have the understanding nga mag-gather nimo through phenomenology. Okay? Now, talking about the DOP or developmentally appropriate practices. I have here six principles na link or relevant to my topic. First is the development and learning are dynamic processes shaped by biology environment. So this principle means that a child's growth and learning do not happen in isolation. Instead, they are shaped by both the child's natural traits and then sa ilahang environment. So naa jud say influence to each other. So through phenomenology in play, teachers can observe how children's personal traits and their surroundings come together in lived experiences. Second, all domains of child development are important. So, this principle highlights that children's growth happens in different areas, and these areas support each other, like sa physical, cognitive, social, emotional, language, so on and so forth. So, phenomenology in play helps teachers notice how these domains come together in lived experiences. Like, for example, when children play store, they practice counting. That's cognitive. Talking with peers, that's language and social. Cooperating, they social. And then even writing labels, that's physical fine motor. Diba? So that's different areas na. And then, observe na nimo siya, observing play this way shows how development in one area strengthens growth in others. Third, play promotes joyful learning and builds key skills. So this principle says that play is not just fun. It helps children develop self-control, language, thinking, social skills, and even knowledge across subjects. So play is essential for all young children because it is their natural way of learning and making sense of the world. And phenomenology focuses on how children experience playment, which will allow us teacher to see the joy, the meaning, and learning hidden in it. Okay? So through phenomenological observation, teachers see that play is a powerful tool for learning and not just free time. Fourth, the fifth principle ng nasa NAEYC. It is children are active learners from birth. So this principle means that children are not passive. They don't just wait to be taught. From the moment they are born, they actively explore, observe, and make sense of the world. So through phenomenology, teachers can observe how children's lived experiences reflects this natural curiosity. So, by paying attention to these play experiences, teachers see how children are naturally motivated to learn and create meaning. Fifth, children's motivation to learn grows with belonging, purpose, and agency. So, it means that children are more engaged when they feel accepted, when they have a say in what and how they learn, and when activities matter to them or na as a purpose or relevant sila ha. So learning environments that connect to their family, culture, and community make them more motivated and confident. Okay, so through phenomenology in play, teachers notice how children's experiences reflect these needs. Like, for example, when a child role plays cooking food from their culture sa kitchen, they feel proud, which is na purpose sila ha, included, a sense of belongingness, and in control of the play or lang agency, ana, nga, activity. So by observing play in this way, teachers can design environments and activities that respect children's identities and strengthen their motivation to learn. Okay, last one, number six, development and learning advance when children are challenged just beyond mastery. So, this principle explains that children grow best when tasks are a little harder than what they can already do, but still possible with support. This is often called the zone of proximal development. Practice, reflection, and encouragement help children master new skills. So, phenomenology helps teachers recognize these moments when children challenge themselves. And that's the time as well ba nga mas maka-offer pa ka niya sa sa bata a more challenging task baro that you think kaya nila or you can assist. Like for instance, stacking blocks is kutabalik ana. Stacking blocks higher than before is testing balance and persistence. So ikaw as teacher, by observing phenomenologically, you will see that child's determination and provide support. Like mo suggest pa rin kaniya og mas stewarding a foundation or whatever way nga mas ma-develop pa ang bata o mas ma-challenge siya. This way, play becomes an opportunity niya for a meaningful challenge and growth. So that's how phenomenology and play linked to the DAP principles. This time, let's move on to classroom application. So we have here seven steps or ways on how to apply these concepts. First in line is observation of play. So teachers act as researchers by carefully watching how children engage in play. So your focus in here is not only on what they do, but also on why and why it matters for the child. That's the first step. Second, listening to children's explanation. wherein you will ask open-ended questions during play, like, can you tell me more what's happening here? Or why did you choose to build it this way? In that sense, children's answers reveal the meaning they attach to their play. Third, documentation, like mga journals. Teachers should keep play journals or field notes to record children's actions, conversations, and emotions, like mga photos, videos, or mga drawings nila, which can also be used as data for reflection. Okay? Like, what does this play reveal about the child's world? Ingana. Fourth, using play interviews, like after a play activity, sit with the child and talk about their experiences or lang overall experience activity. Like, punta na ka, you built a tall tower today. What does it remind you of? Or what did you feel? Ay nga na. In that way ba, this will allow the child to explain the meaning of their interaction in their own words. Dili kay ikaw ang magbuot-buhat, magbuot-buot kung unsay pasabot ana para niya. Number five, designing curriculum based on children's lived experiences. So teachers use what they learn from play to plan learning activities. So if many children play market, the teacher can integrate a unit on buying, selling, and money. Diba? So this makes learning relevant and connected to children's real experiences. Number six, encouraging cultural and inclusive play. Provide toys, like mga materials that reflect diverse cultures, families, and roles. This ensures children from different backgrounds feel seen and valued. Yeah, ikaw, teacher, maka-interpret ka that these play choices um, helps you understand children's identity and cultural values. Okay? And number seven, reflective teaching practice. Teachers step back, reflect, and ask, nganong, why did I learn from this child through their play? How can I support their needs man based on what I observe? Yung ano ba, this makes teachers more empathetic and child-centered. Kaya you are reflecting man kung if effective ba ba kasi mong gibuhat or does this support sa student and stuff, so on and so forth. Okay? That's the classroom application. Talking about the steps in conducting phenomenology in early childhood research, I also have here the sixth step. First is to identify the phenomenon to explore. Phenomenology should start by asking what specific experience do we want to understand from children's perspective. It should be specific. Kailain sa og broad, no? Maglisod na ka ana og cover tanan. This is called phenomenon. For example, you may want to know, how do children experience friendship in play? So focus ka sa friendship. Or what does pretend play mean to children? Broad man ang play. So you need to be specific. Or like, muas pa ka, how do children feel when they play alone? So this step is very important because it gives direction to the study and helps us focus on one lived experience at a time. If your topic mango is too broad, you'll get a lots of mixed data and won't be able to find deep meaning. So dapat siya specific because it will help you notice small but important details and makes your analysis useful for teaching. Okay? Second, collect children's experiences of play. Like, since children may not always explain things in words, so researchers use child friendly ways to gather their experiences. Number one, ana observation. Like, watch them, you will watch them as they play, like mga gestures nila, expressions, ilang roles, and interactions. Or interviews, ask mga simple questions at what are you playing? Or why is she the teacher? Why is she the mother? Ana ba? Or ilahang mga drawings, ilang mga storytelling. You will give children paper, crayon, or toys to express their ideas. Okay? And body sad mga teacher or researcher journals. You will write your reflections about what happened during the play. That's part of gathering the data. So the goal is not just to see what they are doing, but to gather how they understand and feel about their play. It is important nga suitable method jud ang imuhang gamiton because observing children carefully or listening to their words or even interviewing them is like kuan ba? I mean, the right method is important because children often express their experiences differently than adults. So sometimes through actions, gestures, or imagination rather than direct answers. Okay? So dapat jud appropriate nga methods imong gamiton. Third, suspend assumption. So you suspend assumptions, or in other term that is bracketing, as I mentioned earlier. In phenomenology, researchers must bracket, B-R-A-C-K-E-T, or set aside their own biases and judgments. So instead of quickly assuming the kaning bataa is very shy kay permise mag-inunusara, so ikaw as a researcher must step back and say, I will wait and see what this experience really means for the child. Ano kahang alone na siya kung magduwa. That way ba, ma-help matabangan mo himang kagalingon to avoid misinterpretation and allow the child's perspective to come first. Okay? Although this one is one of the hardest but pinaka-importante nga part or step when conducting phenomenology because you need to put aside your adult viewpoint man. And the fourth one is analyze the data. After collecting observations, interviews, and stories, the researcher looks for patterns or themes, like what feelings are children showing during play, or what roles do they take on, or what those roles mean, or usa kaha ang mga words or stories that they use to describe their play. So, analysis is about finding the deeper meaning behind the play. Number five, interpret with empathy. Empathy. This step is about trying to see the world through the child's eyes. Like you will ask, if I were this child, if ako ning bataa, what might this play mean to me? Okay? For example, na-observe nimo nga ang child nagpretend siya og cook with leaves. It might not just be about messing around, but it could mean they are imitating what they see at home and expressing their family experiences. It's just that dahon lang ang available para siya maka-perform sa cooking activity na iyang pretend. So, empathy makes sure that we understand children not from an adult perspective, but from their own lived reality. And number six, share insights and apply them in practice. So the findings are used to improve teaching and learning. Teachers can design play-based activities na connected sa mga experience sa bata, or we can make classroom more inclusive, respecting diverse ways children play. And we can also use play as an assessment tool to see what children are learning and feeling. And lastly, we can build stronger teacher child relationship or teacher student relationship because we can now truly understand what matters to them. So, in overall sense, phenomenological insight should always lead to better support for children's growth. Okay, so that's the step in conducting phenomenology in early childhood research. The second to the last of my topic, let me share as well the three theories that supports phenomenology in play. We have here Edmund Husserl. So he is known as the father of phenomenology. His main idea was that we should focus on understanding experiences as people actually live them, not how others interpret them from the outside. Now, when we connect this to children, it means that play should not just be seen as kids having fun or kids wasting time. Instead, play should be seen from the child's perspective. So, if ang bata mag-build siya og tower with blocks, adults might think they're just stacking toys, but for the child, it could mean creating a house, a castle, or even kanang mag-express on how they feel safe. So, According to Edmund, it reminds us that to truly understand children, we must step into their world of meaning, not just ours. Because for children, play must be seen from their perspective. Second, we have Maurice Merleau-Ponty. I'm sorry if I pronounce it wrong, but he built on the previous theorist's idea, but he added something important. He said that our body and senses daw are central sa tuang experiences sa kalibutan. So for children, this is very obvious in play. So like, for example, think of a child running barefoot in the grass or painting with their hands. They are not only playing, they are feeling, smelling, touching, and moving. This is how they learn. Okay, so he stressed that embodied experience, we need the five senses so that children learn. We need our body, our senses though, because play is equals a way of being in the world. He teaches us that play is not just about the mind, it is about the whole body, the senses, and how children live in and connect with their world. And that's why play is more than just activity. It's their way of being. Next, the last one, that's Max van Manen. Um, he is a modern thinker who applied phenomenology directly to education. He wrote a book called Researching Lived Experience in 1990, where he explained how teachers and researchers can use phenomenology to better understand students. Para niya, play daw is like a window into a child's inner world. Window into child's inner world daw. When a child is playing daw, they are showing us their thoughts, their feelings, and even their experiences at home or in their community. But the important thing to take note is that as teacher daw, our role is not to assume or jump to conclusions. Instead, we must listen, observe, and ask. So if ang bata na pretend to be a doctor every day, instead of assuming they just like the costume, we can ask, what does being a doctor mean to you? This way, we learn from the child's lived experience, not from our own guesswork. Mao na ang idea ni Max. So these are the three theories that supports phenomenology in play. For the last one, I have here as well a research that I find relevant to my topic. It is entitled Understanding Play from Children's Perspective, a Phenomenological Study. This paper is about children and their play. But instead of looking at play from the eyes of adults, like teachers or parents, the researcher asked, what does play really mean to children themselves? So the study was done with 8 children, ages 5 to 6, in a preschool in Istanbul, that's somewhere in Turkey. The researcher used a phenomenological approach, which means she wanted to understand the children's lived experiences rather than measuring or testing phenomenological observations. So rather than mag-measure or mag-test, they focus more on capturing how children feel, how they describe their world, and how or what meaning they give to their everyday activities, especially in play. To make sure that children could express themselves freely. So the teacher used something called the mosaic approach. This is a child friendly way of gathering information that uses different tools, not just words. She observed that the children, while they played, had casual chats with them, asked them to draw their play experiences, and even invited them to give tours of their school and playground. So this tool helped children communicate what they meant to them in their own ways without being limited by adult language. So from the data, there are four major themes nga iyahang discover. Motivations for play, feelings in play, imagination while playing, and resources for play. So sa motivation for play, children are not just playing randomly. They know why they play. Okay? Feelings in play. play brings strong emotions. Most of the time, it is joyful, exciting, and fun. Imagination while playing. A big part of playing is pretending, so children love to create imaginary worlds and resources for play. Children clearly pointed out, though, that play needs certain things like enough space, safe environment, materials like toys or objects, and most importantly, friends. Now, what does all this mean? The main message of the research is that children are the real experts of their own play. Adults often describe play in terms of learning outcomes. So, like example, saying play helps with social skills, problem solving, or motor development. While those benefits are true, this study reminds us that play is also about children's here and now experiences. For them, play is about having fun, facing challenges, feeling emotions, and exercising choice. Okay, so what does this implicate? What are the implications for early childhood education for this? That teachers should listen more to children and respect their perspective. When planning DAO activities or designing play spaces, children's voice should be considered. And adults should avoid taking too much control when they are playing. Okay, when adults turn play into work or forced learning goes into it, children may stop seeing it as a play. True play must allow freedom, imagination, and choice. And lastly, play should be valued not only as preparation for academics but as child's right and lived experiences. Schools and policies should protect time and space for play because it is essential to children's development and well-being. Okay, so finally, this study connects very well to the idea that we cannot force children to do activities because play again is kanang voluntary. It is not something na to ang ipugos sila ha. As mentioned earlier, we should not take too much control. Okay, if ato silang pugson or when adults turn play into work or forced learning goes into it, then children may stop seeing it as a play na. Like mapugos na lang sila and they are no longer enjoying it. The fun is no longer there. Okay? So in that sense, through play, children show us how they experience the world, and our job as educators is to listen. And overall, what does the study mean for us teachers and future educators? It reminds us, future teachers in ECE, especially me, since I'm not handling ECE, it reminds us that play should be understood from the child's point of view. And our role is not to control or define play for them, but to provide the time, space, and resources they need to make their own choices. Okay? To conclude, phenomenology in early childhood research is really about listening to children's voices and seeing the world from their perspective. It means play is not just a fun activity, it is the child's way of living, learning, and making meaning. And as teachers, if we take time to understand play as a lived experience, we can design classrooms that are more inclusive, more creative, and more developmentally appropriate. Okay, again, let me read. Through play, children show us how they experience the world. Our job as educators is to listen. If we carry this mindset into our teaching, we will not only teach better, but we also connect with our students in a much deeper and more meaningful way. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you will learn something. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.